E is a near-death experience. Basically, people that had them um, died and then came back. Okay, so they saw something on the other side and brought back memories of the other side when they came back, and it's usually um, you're also brought back changed. No one comes back the same. They came back with a message. They came back with a mission. Something's different with you when you came back.
Right. There's actually a show I watched it recently because I got trained in I was a therapist before I moved into the coaching field, and so I've worked with hypnosis, and there's actually a past life hypnosis. It's called a regression. And so a lot of individuals, when they go back, they actually see what happens in their like former life, whether it's real or not, who cares? The point is it's extremely healing to go back
Mhm.
on those journeys. And the majority of them who are highly spiritual now in their current reality, they had a witness of what happened right after they died. So like you're saying, like there's that other side. It's kind of like death isn't just death. Like there's something after it. It's another part of life.
Welcome to the Resilient Minds podcast, stories of grit, growth, and success, where we dive deep into the journey of successful leaders who've struggled and succeeded. Before the wins, before the titles, what was the mindset behind the leader? On this show, we focus on real stories behind the success, the struggles, the resilience, and the courage it takes to keep moving forward, even when times get tough. My goal is to provide you with stories of hope and transformation, showing that no matter the challenges, there is a way forward. On this show, we'll be meeting with highly successful leaders who've battled through obstacles, emerging stronger and wiser on the other side. This show is for anyone who wants to grow, evolve, and find the light at the end of the tunnel. Everyone's a leader, so together, we'll uncover what it truly means to evolve as leaders, and ultimately, as human beings. This is Resilient Minds.
Hi, I'm your host, and I'm Dr. Campbell, and I'm here with Peter Gunn. He is a poet, an author, a guitarist. He makes his own music. He's also a bodybuilder. So when I learned just a little bit of his story, I really wanted to have him on the show because not only does he have an amazing backstory of what he's had to overcome in his life, but also he's just a fantastically balanced individual, especially with the poet side, the music, and it's creative. And then you're like a badass bodybuilder. Like I think that's so cool. So please, Peter, thank you so much for joining us. Tell us about yourself.
Well, I mean, I've been called a lot of things. This is what my 63rd, 64th podcast so far, and I've had people call me a Renaissance man, and I'm like, yeah, I guess that's fair because I do a lot in in music and writing, and but a lot of people are shocked at the amount I do too. But I mean, I use effective time management. I'm a creator. I like to. My end goal is to wake up humanity, with all my work and to try to make them aware of what's going on. Yeah.
Right. What do you mean by wake up?
Well, okay, let's take the hero's journey and my work with it to bring the feminine into it. I mean, people are completely unaware, like, wait a minute, they didn't even think about it before, but there are a lot of young girls out there that want to be incorporated in the hero's journey. They want to have epic poetry written about stories that involve women, but no one's doing it. So I mean, it's like, well, yeah, let's just leave them out. No, let's be inclusive. People need to realize that they're not in this world alone. We share with everyone, and there's a synergy that a powerful synergy that comes along when you incorporate the masculine and the feminine together. It's about time to bring them into the fold.
Right. So you're talking about the hero's journey and like the books and the stories and the movies. Like it's always about the man being strong, right? But you're
Yeah,
including
yeah,
the woman.
yeah, constantly. So it's one of those things where we have to right a wrong.
Right. And I usually see visionaries, they see, right? Like they can actually see the problems in humanity and they usually want to solve a problem. And that's what that ends up being part of their life's purpose, right? Like I see this problem, like if nobody else is going to solve it, I'm going to solve it, right? So what you're doing is you're intentionally trying to wake up humanity. So it seems like they can see some of the problems too. You have to bring it to their awareness.
Yeah, well, going back to my NDE, after it happened, when I was young, I was only 7 years old, and I felt an urge to help humanity in some way, and I looked into, like, when I was younger, to the Catholic Church. There was a time in my life when I, considered becoming a priest, and I served as an altar boy and for several years, and I had to learn Latin and serve several masses, but there were a lot of shortcomings there, and I saw it for what it was. A lot of people were two-faced. They're Catholics by name only. They don't practice it, at least when they go home, only in church. Um, so I saw that, that wasn't for me. And then I decided, when I was older, why not go in the military to serve humanity in that way? So
Right.
I decided to make a go of it.
So you've said it a couple of times and you said it really quickly. So not a lot of people know what NDD actually stands for. Can you explain to us what it is and then how you experienced it?
NDE is a near-death experience. Basically, people that had them um, died and then came back. Okay, so they saw something on the other side and brought back memories of the other side when they came back, and it's usually um, you're also brought back changed. No one comes back the same. They came back with a message. They came back with a mission. Something's different with you when you came back.
Right. There's actually a show, I watched it recently because I got trained in, I was a therapist before I moved into the coaching field. And so I've worked with hypnosis, and there's actually a past life hypnosis. It's called a regression. And so a lot of individuals, when they go back, they actually see what happens in their like former life, whether it's real or not, who cares? The point is, it's extremely healing to go back
Mhm.
on those journeys. And the majority of them who are highly spiritual now in their current reality, they had a witness of what happened right after they died. So like you're saying, like there's that other side. It's kind of like death isn't just death. Like there's something after it. It's another part of life.
Oh no, I know we live. I'm not going to say everybody, okay? We're all different, but there are people here that have lived several times before, if not thousands of times before. Um, I'll fully admit, for your audience, I have visions, especially when I was smaller, of other worlds, other places. I mean, like, what the best I can describe it is, I feel like I was alive and walking around in Alexandria, as some sort of hired guard, because I always remember myself wearing armor, but it was, and I just have visions as a child of that happening to me. Yeah.
So in this reality, right? Because we can go off on a whole other tangent.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Maybe we'll have you back one day once we get the audience a little bit more warmed up to like, what is all this stuff? However, in this reality, what do you feel is the hardest thing that you've had to overcome?
Um, Working with people in their, shall we say, asleep mindset.
Hmm.
Okay, to see how quickly they are to harm others, not care about others, and just throw them aside. I can't do that. I can't do that. It's I'm it brings me actual internal pain to do that to people. I can't do it. So, and it's like, even just lying for me is something. Even though, oh, we'll just say a white lie. No, no, I'm sorry, sweetheart. Those, your ass is big. It's not the pants. I just have to tell the truth. I just have to tell the truth.
So what I've found very similar to that is individuals who really work on themselves. What happens with their nervous system is it starts to have what I call this internal mirror, where it starts turning and you start holding yourself accountable in a completely different level. It's almost like it's a higher level of
Yeah.
accountability. So individuals who've had near-death experiences, and I can't speak for all of them, I just know the research, the individuals that I know, but also highly spiritual people, kind of like shaman, where they go to the other side, so to speak. They have that
Mhm.
kind of like spiritual accountability where they are transcended over some of what the human laws or rules say what is right or wrong, but they cannot harm without feeling bad. So they can't, they physically feel it in their body, like you're talking about.
Yeah, I often think about it as a like a medieval circular tower with a staircase that goes that winds up around it, and you're constantly going up, and you're constantly going up, and you're constantly going up. And it's just the way I feel like my life is going. I'm constantly trying to go higher.
Right. So what you're effectively discussing is increasing consciousness, right? Which of course
Yeah.
increases our vibration, it increases our awareness on a higher level.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah.
So what do you think? So your difficulty in life has been trying to overcome. That's what I asked you earlier, and just to make sure that I have clarity, I asked you what's the hardest thing that you've overcome in your past, right? But it seems like working with individuals who don't have that same level of awareness.
Okay, you got to bear in mind, I worked 20 years in the U.S. Air Force, and these are Joe Six-Pack, and they're usually alcoholics. They have smoking problems, all sorts of problems. Okay, and I'm not on that mentality. So they look at me like, "Oh, you're odd. I'm always the oddball out because I refuse to drink, I refuse to swear, I refuse to uh, uh, put myself at that level." So they look, it automatically sets you apart. Yeah.
Right.
But on the other hand, is when things need to get done and they need someone they can trust. Yeah.
Right. Because they know, they feel the authenticity and they feel that your
Yeah.
energy is on a higher level. However, it does
Hmm.
literally set you apart from the rest of humanity. Do you feel like sometimes it gets lonely?
No, no, no. If
Explain
okay,
why.
loneliness happens at the lower level. Okay, it happens at the lower level because you're interacting at the base level. When you go higher, you realize that the loneliness is forming you. It's sort of like a forge, okay? And it has to be done that way. And then once you walk out of it, you're changed.
Right.
So it's there. It's a necessity, honestly.
Yeah. And I love how you say that. That's why I asked you, because I feel like people who don't understand being alone and being fulfilled and feeling content, you are in that state, you are connected to everything and everyone. You see how the universe and you and the energies work together. Like you are all connected all the time. So you're technically never alone. Like sometimes you don't even
Yeah,
have.
exactly, exactly. Yes.
And so when you're talking about lower levels, is there something that has helped you if and maybe you have or haven't, I don't know. But when you've dropped down and you've felt uncomfortable, you've been in your ick, you've felt negative human emotions, anything like that, that's helped.
Helped as in what way?
Helped to the way that I would describe it is to raise you back up, right? Because we have to go dig.
Oh, well, that's getting back to center. So then realizing number one, don't forget who you are, realizing who you are, what you are, and then going away from it. So going back into your center and then I want to say become an introvert, basically. And then say, okay, lock yourself away for a weekend and find yourself again. Okay, because you probably, if you have a normal job, you have to go back and see them on Monday, but take the weekend away and go become yourself again.
Right. I often tell my clients, and I talk about it on like in my keynotes and my videos and stuff like that, the importance of sitting alone in silence. And the way that I describe it is you have to go away to ground, to get away from everybody else and everything so you can hear yourself. But it also goes into the spiritual realm, right? You're centering, you're becoming more aligned. And so some people say it's the universe, or it's God, or it's your higher self, or it's your soul. Whatever the aspect, what you're talking about is you have to find you again, right? To
Yeah.
reset.
Hmm.
So then when you are alone, is there anything specific that really helps you find that alignment, or is it strictly just silence with alone time like meditation?
Well, if you were to look at my life from outside, you might think I'm crazy. I live a really regimented life. So there's a time for this, a time for something else, a time for doing that. So um, I will generally only get about 5 to 6 hours of sleep a night. Okay. And I'll wake up early. The first thing I'll do is I'll feel gratitude, okay, for my existence, for to source for being here and allow me to serve. And then I'll go to the gym, and that's the first thing I do, on an empty stomach, not eating. And then I take a shower, eat, come home, meditate, and then I will start writing in some fashion, writing a song, doing poetry, writing a book. Okay, so it's very regimented, and then I will get on, and then I can answer emails, stuff like that. And I have a time slot in my mind that I have for everything. So if I'm not done writing the song, it stops right there, and I go to the next thing.
Right.
That way, I can be more effective at time management because it's at least partially done. Yeah.
Absolutely. So just because, and I think a lot of people, they do get this misconception that spiritual people can't run a business. And I've
Oh
found
no.
the opposite. I feel like spiritual people, the ones that I know of anyways, and then of course myself, extremely disciplined, very regimented because it's like the higher calling. You hold yourself to a different level of expectation, right? Like that accountability that if you get off your course, you actually get off your center too. Like you can't just not do that project that's calling you because it'll start harassing you like in your sleep and like it just doesn't let go. Um, you earlier you were just talking too about really taking care of yourself. And a lot of individuals, especially if they are self-employed, I have to work, I have to get the money, I have to finish this project. Like that's different, that's stress than a calling because the calling, it seems like you have plenty of time to take care of yourself. What do you have to say on that?
Well, okay, there's only one of you. Okay, you're running the show. I think it's important because you're ahead. So build your team up as you go. So if you have a team of people working for you, go find your. If not yet, go find them. Okay, as you resonate higher, they eventually will come to you. But that's where if they're working in the background, you go be you. You go to the gym, and then your team is working for you in the background. Okay, when it's just you, well then keep it in your schedule because realize that there's only one of you,
Right.
and so important to take care of yourself. It's one of those things where if you're going to be at your best and you're going to go out and help humanity, you have to be healthy enough to do it.
Absolutely. So you have the obligation to make sure that you're doing the jobs that you're actually good at because that's your gifts, right? So then you outsource the rest, but you also have to optimize yourself so you can perform at your best, your mind, your body, your energy. So when it comes to somebody who's like worried about money, they want to do their passion, they feel this calling, but they're scared. Like it's like they haven't had that spiritual awakening where on the other side of it, things are so much easier. They flow, right? You feel more calm, more collected. It's like you're in alignment, right? But the people who are still gunked up, they're stressed, they're scared about having the money to do their vision. What do you think about that?
Don't let it stop you from making the jump. Imagine you're going to go catch a ferry, but you're late, and you start going off the pier, and you're running and you're running and you're running. Okay, and then you have a decision to make. Do you jump, maybe to going into the water to try to catch the ferry, or do you just stop? And you're going to have to jump. You're going to have to jump and risk going in the water, risk hurting yourself, but you're going to climb up onto that ferry, and you're going to have to just make the best with whatever bumps and bruises you have. I keep going.
Right. That's a really good perspective too, because I feel like, and I think this is more at like the lower levels of the energy, right? Like we're there, this is fear based that makes us go into more black and white thinking. Either you're gonna succeed or you're not, right? And if you're gonna succeed, you're gonna get out unscathed, you're gonna be happy, right? Like it's gonna be easy and you're gonna have divine help all the time, and it's always gonna make sure that you get what you need and all that. And then there's the other version where you fail miserably, you're broke, you're depressed, you go to the substances, right? But there's a huge middle ground. What would you describe as the balance between those two very, very black and white perspectives?
Belief in yourself. Belief in yourself is what pushes you there. I can do this. Just to give you an idea, because of my mindset for your listeners, because a lot of people still talking about to this day. I can't believe that you did that to me. I can't believe that when they saw it happen. I sustained an injury in Iraq, and I injured my right knee, became dislocated. Okay, I'm not going to get into the details of that, but I was at the gym preparing for a bodybuilding competition, And of course, you diet down and you have to do cardio every day, all that fun stuff. And I was at squat rack, and I guess my tendons had loosened up a little bit from too much cardio, and my knee popped out of its joint. So then, of course, I dropped the bar, and then I'm looking down at my right leg, and my lower leg is 6 inches from my upper leg, and it wasn't broken through the skin; it was just dislocated. And everyone looks at me in horror. They immediately start calling 911. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I got this. And I grabbed my lower leg and jammed it in the upper part, waited for the blood to recirculate, got up and walked out, and I was in the gym the next day. And they looked at me like, I can't believe you did that. I could never do that, but that's my mindset. Is you have to push through the pain and keep going on. And it's belief in myself and my capabilities what makes things like that possible.
Right. So then what do you think about the emotional aspect too? Because emotions jammed up in the body, it distorts our perception and our mindset, right? And it lowers our energy, right? In terms of frequency, shame, fear, control battles, resistance, defense mechanisms. But feeling our emotions is an important aspect of releasing that. So what do you think is a good balance between feeling your emotions to be authentic and letting them, move through you? Because they should be released, but
Yeah, I would say to your listeners, look at the Stoicism. Marcus Aurelius. They felt the emotion, but they also looked at it objectively as if looking at it outside of their bodies. As so you feel it, but you like realize that. Well, I could choose to act this out, or I could just let it go. So you have a choice. You don't have to act out mad. You don't have to act out in shame. You don't have to, just keep going. Just keep going. You have a choice. You don't have to act your emotions. You
right.
can feel them, process them, but you don't have to act.
Right. And I think that's the difference between when somebody says feel your emotions and they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like if you get angry, well, there's ways to exert that, the really long deep breaths or like, like, tensing the body and then releasing it or just like shaking it out because it physically has to be removed from your body in order for you to keep moving forward. But if you suppress it, it clumps up, like it stays in your body and that lowers your vibration. But you're talking about having a balance between, yeah, it's there. Now feel it and we carry on, right? It's
Yes.
sort of
I
like,
often think about like the smoke wafting out of a cigarette. Just let it go up out of your body, out of your center. And it just let it go off to the wind. It's no more.
right. That's pretty much what I say too. I say, well, be an open channel if an energy, an emotion
Mhm.
activates in your body that you don't like, that it's not helpful, which is low vibrating. Let it activate and get as big as it wants because it's going to come out, right? You're a channel, so let it come out.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
So when it comes to you and your work, when it with your goal in waking up humanity, right? What are some of the things that you're working on right now, and how are they helpful?
Well, the biggest thing I think is the album. If you listen to any of the songs, well, number one, people are like, wait a minute, this is poetry. Like, oh, you tricked me to listening to poetry. And another thing is then they start listening to the words and the message. Like, okay, now I understand that. Like the big thing that helped a lot of people, especially um, psychiatrists, have emailed me about it. Because they started having their patients listen to it. Is my song, "The Loop." And it's basically people with repetitive cycles. Okay, so it doesn't have to be just one thing. It doesn't have to be just alcohol, or it's maybe it's cigarette smoking. Maybe it's with. Now I see this a lot, and I'm sure you do too. Is young girls with the same boy, type boy. They're over and over and over again in their lives. It's a loop. And I'm hoping by it being out there, people realize like, wait a minute, do I have a loop going on in my life? Am I actively doing this? Like, oh, there's that light bulb went off me. I am doing this. Yeah.
I love that you say that because one in my own life, but also with my clients and like other people, and we try to get out of these loops. The best way that I have learned to deal with them is when something gravitates to you in your life, look at it objectively and say, okay, well, is this something that I want or is this something not I don't want? Now, if it's something that you don't want, our job is to evaluate what's inside us that brought it to us, send it away and say thank you because now you're waiting for the other order that you just put in for the universe. right?
Mhm.
Is that what you're talking about with breaking the loop?
Yeah, well, it's usually like you said, what brought it to us was usually unhealed life patterns. So you went into the bar for a drink when you shouldn't have, and then there you go again. It's one of those things. It's unhealed life patterns, and to realize that. Wait a minute, I'm doing this to myself. I'm doing this to myself.
Right. Which I appreciate that you actually used those words because a lot of individuals, they don't want to see, or they can't, better yet, sometimes see that they are playing victim, that our life is completely our responsibility. And a lot of the pain and the suffering is our perspectives and what we're calling in or what we're allowing to stay in our lives. So it's
Yeah.
something like listening to poetry or music. It's replaying or it's showing us where we have these loops if we don't like them to change it, right? What are other areas that you feel like wake up people?
Well, like when COVID hit, and a lot of people. This is very controversial. I know if you put it on YouTube and you even mention the word, sometimes it gets flagged. But I always like to think the best of humanity, but I was surprised at how many people were quick to don a mask without questioning it. Like they just did it without question, like, really? Okay. And I thought, okay, they're more asleep than I thought. So what could I do as a creator to help alleviate the situation, to help them understand what might be the underlying reason as to why it's going on? That's why I started the graphic novel. Um, to help them. It's for Joe Sixpack because Joe Sixpack doesn't want to pick up a forged thick book from the library that has no pictures. So a graphic novel is the perfect medium to let them know what's going on, but in the form of story. So it just light that spark. Like there's a lot of fantasy in it, but then there's a kernel of truth in it as well.
Right.
And that's all that you need. Like, oh, could this actually be going on in our government? Hmm. Yeah.
Right. I like to use the why a little bit as a disruptor. It is what it is. It might ruffle feathers. However, if you always ask why, then you can always get to a deeper, more
Yeah.
meaningful reason and then still ask why. Yeah, but why did that happen? Yeah, but why did that happen? And then those bring on the what ifs. Well, what if that is real? Well, what if I want to do it this way instead of that way that it's always been done? Right? Like it opens up our mind and it allows us to think differently.
Yeah.
I love that you joined us, and I really appreciate you sharing your story and all the wonderful gifts that you're doing for the world.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining. Your time and your focus are your most valuable currencies, so thank you for giving that to us today. Our guest contact information will be in the description below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. But please, if you know someone who's struggling, stop right now and send this video to them. The struggle behind growth and success is real, and they need the support to make it, because the strongest minds are the ones that healed. So don't forget, lead louder, feel deeper, and stay resilient. Until next time, this is your host, Dr. Campbell, on the Resilient Minds podcast.